What's up Earthlings, hope all of you are well. Alpha Spotting with you, and today I'm going to be speaking about the Nikon Z6. I've been using it for the past 6 months, and I've also briefly used the Nikon Z7, and I used the Nikon D850 quite a bit, so I'm going to do some comparison in some aspects with each camera. So with that being said, let's get into the Nikon Z6 review, which by the way is the camera I'm recording on right now. So we're gonna start off the review with 15 things that I like about this camera, 15 good things about this camera, and 10 not so good things. Let's start number 1. Excellent grip. Now once under one review I read someone saying that every reviewer says excellent grip on every camera, and that may be it, but believe me when I say the ergonomics on the Nikon, all Nikon cameras, more specifically the Z6, is excellent. If you compare the grip from the Nikon Z6 versus its competitors, you're gonna see a difference. Mark my word for it. The grip on the Z6 is excellent, and it's just a pleasure to use and shoot with. Holding it all day, grip sort of matters. And it's a perfect size. It's not too big, it's too small. It's perfect for the average hand, no matter what your hand size. Is my hand big or small? I think my hand is average sized. Usually mirrorless cameras, they're just like too small, it's not good. So I think the Z6 is, in terms of ergonomics, a very sweet spot between a proper DSLR and a mirrorless camera. They really did an excellent job in that aspect. Number 2, time-lapse is on point. It's unbelievable how good the time-lapse is on the Nikon Z6 and the Z7. Now I'm not saying the D850 is bad at time-lapse by any means, it's still excellent, but I just feel like the Z6 is just a little better, especially if you're doing day to night. I feel like the Z6 and the Z7 both are slightly better than the D850, although honestly the difference is probably not even noticeable. But just like the time-lapse on the Z6 or any other Nikon camera, it's just always so excellent. Unlike its competitors where some don't even have the feature at all, or you have to connect your remote control to them, Nikon cameras, and specifically the Z6, is just easy and it does such an amazing job. Here's some example of it, straight out of the camera, I swear. God, it's hot out here. Oh yeah, you're back. Okay, I hope you like that. Okay, number 3, great video quality on the Z6. Now by no means the D850 is bad in terms of videos, it's excellent, but it has one serious problem, and that's focusing. When I'm taking the video in the D850, it just doesn't focus. I was once at a concert and I was recording a video and the light wasn't bad. There was good light. The camera would just not focus. It would just not focus. I don't know what was up with it. Both the D810, D850, and I think that's a bit of a DSLR problem when it comes to videos. We interrupt this program to bring you a special guest. Sammy, what do you think of the Z6?
Good.
Do you like the Z6? Yeah. Say I love Nikon.
I love Nikon.
Alright. Z6, Z7, D850, they all do an excellent job with videos, but the DSLR, the D850, it just doesn't focus. When there's a little bit of low light, it just doesn't focus, but the focus on the Z6 in terms of videos and photos, excellent. You could do 4K on the Z6, 30 frames per second, 1080 up to 120, which is excellent, and I love that. Number 4, the VR or the image stabilization, and on the Z6 it's ridiculously amazing. They have the normal mode and they have the sport mode, and they're just mad. Like they're so still. I could take 1 second long exposure with it. The VR is ridiculously good when it's for photos and for videos. So they also have electronic stabilization, I think that's the name, and that just makes things look weird. It looks like warp mode kind of stuff. Number 5, the EVF, the Viewfinder. Compare it to its competitors, and I have people from other brands who use the Z6 and they're like, wow, the Viewfinder, it's excellent, wow. So yeah, the EVF on the Z6 and the Z7, it's absolutely incredible. The electronic viewfinder, I'm pretty sure no other camera is as good as this. If you think there's a camera that has a better electronic viewfinder, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to know. Number 6, eye focus. Now I admit I actually have not used the eye focus mechanism in the Z6 nor the Z7, but I've seen reviews on it and I've seen their ads and videos on YouTube, and they look absolutely excellent. Now honestly, I shoot a fair amount of portraits and I just Usually don't really see the need of eye focus. I need to update the firmware on my Z6 to get the eye focus feature, which I've not done yet, but I'm gonna get on that soon. It's excellent that Nikon added that feature onto their Z series, and I think this feature will go a long way. Number 7, mad shutter burst mode. Like, it's an absolute machine gun. You take it and you're like, I don't know how much raw burst mode photo it takes. It has continuous shooting extended, which means that was a weird sound effect. Let's try that again. Yeah, my voice sound effect was terrible, but you get the idea. It's an absolute machine gun. It's absolutely mad, and I cannot express that enough. Especially when you're shooting cars or model or something that's moving, that's gonna come in very handy because it's like a little time lapse, like it's phenomenal. I love it. Number 8, it's very lightweight. I traveled with it for 3 months, and I had a backpack full of everything. Now if I had a D850 on my back with a 24-70, it would have been heavy, but the 24-70 on the Nikon and the Z6 itself, the body, it's very lightweight, and it's the perfectest travel camera. It's the perfectest travel camera. Number 9, XQD. It does not have an SD card slot, it has an XQD, and the XQD is quality SD cards, and that's something that everyone should have. XQDs are big and they're strong and they'll never break on you, and it's a good investment. Thumbs up for XQD because XQD is the future. Number 10, it has natural white balance. Now it has normal white balance, but sometimes you're in a room where the room, for example, is tinted blue, or just you're in some environment that the colors are not normal, like the actual environment, the color is not normal. So this feature with Nikon allows you to have natural white balance in an environment that is naturally not the correct white balance, if that makes sense. And that's a great feature in this camera that I have not seen in other cameras. Now if you've seen that in other cameras, let me know in the comments below. Number 10, silent photography, and that's something that every camera should have. If you're in a place like a wedding or a church or a place of religion where it would be disrespectful or it would ruin things if everyone hears the shutter click, so that's very good. I think the name itself is pretty self-explanatory. It's silent photography, and if you're in a place where you cannot burst the shutter and you have that silent photography feature, it's something that every professional camera should have, basically. Number 12 is the focus. Whether I'm shooting continuous, whether I'm shooting single, I can always rely on the focus, even for videos, not just photos. The focus on the Z series is excellent. Now with the DSLRs, it's usually a bit tricky. It's not an understatement. With DSLRs, it's a bit tricky, especially if you shoot videos, but also if you're shooting people, shooting portraits, shooting continuous. In my experience, mirrorless is usually just better for continuous shooting. DSLRs are not bad, still a lot of sports photographers shoot with a D5. I'm not saying that DSLRs are bad for continuous focus or anything like that, but mirrorless is just better in that regards. Number 13 is a little tilt screen. Now I wish it would go all the way like what they have on the Nikon D5500, but it does the job. Sometimes when I'm taking video and I have to look down and the video has to be straight up and I shoot like this, it's a very important feature to have in every camera, a little tilt screen. Number 14, you can pretty much do everything in the viewfinder. You don't even need to use the main screen. You can just hold it up to your ear and change the menu as you are in the viewfinder, which is a very good feature, so you don't have to put your camera down, change the settings and such. You can do everything in the viewfinder with everything is just perfectly placed. All the buttons are perfectly placed, and that's amazing. Number 15 and last is the Fn1 and Fn2 feature. With these two fingers you can just change any setting you like, ISO, white balance, you can customize that, and I find that to be amazing. It's slightly awkwardly placed for my fingers in my opinion, but I think it does the job and I love that. I think I said I love that a lot on this feature, but yeah, I love all these features. So now let's go to some stuff that's slightly bad. Number 1, hello Earthlings, Future Alpha here, and I want to say that the first point I made about the Z6, the things I didn't like about it, I was actually under the false assumption, so let's go to point number 2. Number 2, this doesn't happen all the time, but it happens sometimes, and that is, it just changes the exposure out of nowhere. So sometimes when I'm shooting a scene, and I usually shoot at aperture priority, so let's say I'm putting the aperture on f10 and I'm shooting it, and the exposure dial is on 0, and the image is just a bit underexposed, but the scenery is not underexposed. Well, I put it on +7, +0.7, and that's the right exposure. And sometimes vice versa. Sometimes I'm shooting a scenery, and when I'm shooting it on exposure 0, it shoots a bit overexposed, and when I put it on -0.7, it's the right exposure. So it's a tiny thing. I mean, I shoot RAW all the time, so it's not a big deal at all. But sometimes when I'm shooting long hour events, and I shoot JPEGs because professionals, when they do long hour events, they shoot JPEGs because they don't need the RAW. So if you shoot JPEG, it's not a big deal, honestly. Number 3, and this is something I don't want to say, but it's the truth. The image quality compared to Z7 and D850, nothing alike. The Z6, I consider it a very good average camera in terms of image quality, especially. Out of 10, I would give it 7, which is still a very good number. But like D850, I would give it 9.9 out of 10. While the Z7, I would give it 9.5 out of 10. So there's a very noticeable difference between the Z6 image quality and the Z7 and the D850. For Nikon cameras, I would rank as terms of best image quality D850, Z7, Z6, D810, and then everything else below. But again, 7 out of 10, that's a very good ranking. And honestly, look at some of these photos with the Z6. It still does an absolute amazing job. These are single exposure images, so they still do a good job if you know how to edit. Number 4 is the battery grip. Now recently Nikon did announce the battery grip, but honestly that battery grip is just a glorified battery pack. And Nikon, if you're watching this, please redo the whole battery grip thing, because it's a disappointment. Number 5 is the battery life. Now honestly, not bad by any means, it's excellent. The D850 does a little bit better. Like the D850 will last me a full day, while this may last me like almost a full day if I use it wisely. So yeah, the battery life, again, it's excellent. It's not bad by any means. It's just like the D850 is a little bit better. Number 6, it does not have a SD slot. Now I know I said that the XQD is the future and I love having it, but I also would love to have the option of putting an SD in there, because SDs are like $10 while XQD is $100. They're expensive. Now yes, I'm paying for quality and I don't mind it, but I would still have loved to have the option of putting an SD card in there. Now I believe a Nikon representative told me this. They said that they did not put an SD slot in there because XQD is the future and they're pushing it towards that, and that sounds very good to me. I don't mind having an XQD, but again, I would like to have the option of having an SD in there because it's a good backup. You could put XQD and SD at the same slot. But anyway, XQD is the future. Number 7, and this is gonna be full of controversy, but the 1 card slot. Now I know everyone says, oh, 2 card slots or anything, and I believe that they are all overreacting. I do not need 2 card slots. Even cameras that I had 2 card slots before, I never used them. I never needed to, and I shoot videos. Before you tell me, oh, you only shoot photos, but no, I shoot videos too. But I would say, and again, feel free to comment below if you disagree, I think the reason why sometimes videos get ruined is because of the SD. SD is not that good in that regards, while an XQD, you will not have that problem with an XQD. At least so far from the 6th month I've been using this, I have not had any problems with my videos using the XQD. But if you disagree, feel free to drop a comment down below. And just like the SD, I would just like to have the option of a second slot card. Although I don't need it, it's just good to have as an option. Number 8, there's a little bit vignetting when I take photos around the camera, and I can't seem to exactly remove it in post-production. In fact, when I post on enable profile correction, when editing it really doesn't do anything. And it's not a big deal at all, it's just a little vignetting. You can play with it, you can fix that in post, it's not a big deal whatsoever, but it's still there. I don't see that in videos though, but in photos I do. Number 9, and this is this, for me, it's a big deal. It doesn't have an inbuilt flash. Now, I know what you're gonna say, it's a professional camera, you should buy a proper external flash. You don't need inbuilt. I disagree. I'm a professional photographer. I use the inbuilt camera flash in events, and it does a very good job. I was once at an event and I had a flash, and the battery ran out, and I used the inbuilt flash. It wasn't the Z6 I was using, I believe it was the D810 if I'm not mistaken, and that had an inbuilt flash, and I used it and it works. It works. If I'm shooting at 35mm and above and I use the inbuilt flash, it does an amazing job. Believe me. If you don't believe me, try it yourself. For me, this is a big deal. I want inbuilt flash, period. Number 10, the lens. Now, I love the lens. I love the 24-70. The 24-70Z is amazing. So sharp. F4 looks like F3. I don't know how that's even possible, but they do it. It's an absolutely amazing lens. It's hard for me to say this because it's really an amazing lens, but I don't qualify it as a professional lens because you have to rotate it for it to start operating, and that's a no-no for me. That's like what the low-end DX cameras do when you turn them and it clicks into the place. No, this is a professional lens. It should not do that, so yeah. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. If you found this video useful, please hit the like, thumbs up button thingy and subscribe to my channel. Follow me on my Instagram at alphaspotting if you haven't already, and if you have any comments regarding this video, feel free to drop them down below, even if you have any questions, or DM me on Instagram. Much love guys, Alpha out.